It's National Hispanic Heritage Month, a time to recognize the contributions of the Latino community across the U.S. Our Daniela Pardo highlights the California Latina who is helping lead the state's efforts to tackle the climate crisis.
The fight against climate change is personal for Governor Gavin Newsom, Senior Climate Advisor Lauren Sanchez.
My dad and my tios and my tias lived next to two highways that were spewing pollution, next to oil wells. I mean, really just the kind of the poster child neighborhood in Boyle Heights of environmental justice. My dad grew up in the smog-filled LA, unable to go outside for recess.
As the governor's go-to person for all things climate, Lauren feels a tremendous amount of responsibility to empower and protect communities of color like her family's.
I was able to fly down to Wilmington, California, a Latino community portside that has had a long history of oil production in the community, and met with community leaders who have been fighting for generations to shut down oil production in their neighborhood, quite literally next to daycares, next to YMCAs, hospitals, because of the health impacts that oil production is having on that community.
One of the pieces of legislation she's most proud of is Senator Lina Gonzalez's bill that will create a 3,200-foot buffer zone between homes, daycares, schools, and new oil wells.
The government historically has not done a great job at embedding equity and the most vulnerable into all of its priorities and its programs and its funding, and California is really at the tip of the spear on that.
Prior to working for the governor, Lauren was a climate advisor for the Biden-Harris administration. The 33-year-old was also on President Obama's climate negotiating team during the 2016 Paris Agreement.
When President Trump was elected, I think we all remember that fateful night, I realized I no longer had a role in the federal government working on climate change. So I left DC and really spent time reflecting in the mountains in the Sierra around where I wanted to go next.
It was then she made her way back to the Golden State to work for the Air Resources Board and later the Environmental Protection Agency. While the Oakland Latina has worked on climate policy for more than a decade, she opened up about what it's like being one of the few people of color in many climate conversations.
I grew up, I would say, with quite a bit of imposter syndrome, being the only Latina in a very white space, the environmental movement, and in the elite education opportunities that I was able to have. And so a big part of what I try to do is make sure that if I can use my voice and my platform to empower those who haven't seen themselves in government.
During Hispanic Heritage Month, Lauren reflects on all the Latino leaders she's met and worked with. Among her favorites are civil rights icon Dolores Huerta, as well as members of the Latino Legislative Caucus, who played a pivotal role in passing the governor's $54 billion climate package.
I actually have these moments of walking into the room and having to pinch myself that I get to partner with such inspirational leaders that are so focused on Latino communities across our state. It's really an honor and a privilege, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Lauren hopes California's climate agenda serves as a model for other states and countries.
And Daniela Pardo joins us now live from Sacramento. This was a year of a lot of action when it comes to the climate front here in California. What does Lauren Sanchez say is next for the Newsom administration?
Well, right now she's in New York for Climate Week with the governor and with Mary Nichols, who you just talked to, and they are there to highlight everything that California is doing to lead on climate change and hoping that other states, other countries also copy some of what's happening here. And she says that while she's proud of what is happening in California, what keeps her up is knowing that there's still a lot of work to do to protect vulnerable communities. And she says that she thinks of her parents who last year she got a call from them. They live in Seattle, and there was a heat wave there, and it was so hot. They weren't prepared for it. It was 105, and they had to sleep outside on their deck. And she said that was just a reminder of why the work that she's doing is so important. So as the top official on climate for the governor, she thinks of her parents, her grandparents, and the millions of Latino families who oftentimes are the most vulnerable to the effects of climate change due to where they live and work. So she says that she'll continue to use her platform to uplift these communities, Alex.
Daniela, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And coming up, with some 400 Americans dying every day from COVID, where do we stand against this virus? We'll get details from a local doctor who has been leading the charge on vaccines. That's next.